Hello and welcome back to our Save a Seat series here on Patreon. As always, I am your podcast host, Chloe, and today we are starting a series on Women's History Month, which we are very excited to celebrate here at More. I am joined every week by different women who talk about what they do, why they're inspired by what they do in different sectors, and the women that have inspired them to become who they are today. So I am joined by Sophie Haydar, who is a user experience and user interface designer at Counterpart based in Indianapolis. So thank you so much for joining me again, Sophie.
Yeah, it's so great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, we had a great conversation in our Spotify episode, which, if you haven't listened to it, go listen to that first and come back. But we talked a lot about what user experience and user interface means, how you were inspired to become a designer in the first place, and how important it is for women to be represented in these spaces when it comes to technology and STEM, etc. But I want to dig a little deeper into that. This is our Dig Deeper series, so that's what we're going to do. How have you seen women represented in your sector in a broader sense? And how can we as women save a seat at the table for others to grow and learn in this technology sector?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really interesting about creative fields is there seems to be a lot more representation of women. And I'm not 100% sure why that is. I think that creative fields tend to push boundaries a lot more, and that makes people a lot more comfortable with a change in the status quo. And I think, in creative fields that can sometimes be taken less seriously than maybe some more technical fields, women have really carved out a space for themselves. And I think that people are really starting to see the value of design and the role that women play in design. So, whether it's been at past events where I've gotten to hear women talk about their experiences in design, or just meeting other female designers and females or women in the tech industry, I think it's really incredible to see how much of a space that they occupy and how much all of them are willing to lend a helping hand to a younger designer, give advice to, a fellow designer or anyone that they come across. I don't think I've ever, met someone at one of those events or, as I was in college who wasn't willing to give you some design feedback or chat about their favorite part of design or something like that. So,
That's so sweet.
yeah, I think it's just a very welcoming space, and I think part of that definitely is thanks to women just creating a safe space for other people to share ideas.
Yeah. How do you find opportunities to uplift women in tech or maybe that are just interested in tech to do what you do?
Yeah, well, I, like a lot of designers, love talking about what I do. So, whenever I'm chatting to someone and they ask me what I do, it usually opens up a whole conversation about what is user experience design? What do you do? And I always try to, ask them if they have ever been frustrated with technology before. And I'm like, if you have been, that's probably because it was poorly designed or there wasn't a designer involved. And
Right.
it's our job to make everything flow a bit more smoothly and look a bit nicer and, just have that extra little bit of something that you can't always quite put your finger on, but when you're having, like, a good experience with technology versus a really bad one.
Yeah.
So, I always find that super interesting. But, yeah, I'm very involved in the local design community in downtown Indianapolis and the surrounding areas, and I now that I'm out of college, it's really cool to be talking to, like, the next generation of designers and the ones who are now looking for jobs, and they're asking me for advice, which is just crazy because, like, 1 or 2 years ago, I was in their exact same position, and so it's so cool to be on the other side and just tell them, like, "Hey, there is a place for you. Stick to what makes you you." If you're trying to, like, replicate other people and other designers, you're not gonna be able to stand out and have that, like, unique little thing that makes all of your work special. So, I think there's a lot of pressure right now in the creative industry to, you know, make a name for yourself and, have your portfolio and your resume and your internships and all that stuff, but I think it's also really important to still, like, nurture who you are as a designer and try to just stay authentic to yourself so that when someone meets you, they're like, "Whoa, I just, like, met a new person," and not like, "Oh, what was her name again?" But, so that's kind of the advice that I've started giving to other people is to just, stick with what, you know, resonates with them, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like we've kind of already tackled this, but if there are, young women out there who are considering if going into user experience, user interface fields, they want to get into design, but they're worried about, those perceived barriers or stereotypes, what would you say to them?
I would say, like, the same advice, like, stay authentically you.
Yeah.
I think, again, it's really hard to stand out right now. The job market for, like, the design industry is really oversaturated,
Yeah.
and with the way that technology has transformed applying for jobs and getting your work out there, it's just really difficult to stand out, and so a lot of people are looking for, how can I be better than everyone else? What can make me stand out more than the other applicants in the pile?
Right.
I think it's really intimidating right now for some people to, join this industry just because of how competitive it's gotten in, like, the last 5 to 10 years. UX design used to kind of be like an underground kind of thing. Then there was a huge demand for it, and then everybody was like, "Oh my god, I wanna do that too," which is great, but also with, like, how the economy is going and everything, not a lot of people wanna take that extra time and money to really think hard about how their technology is gonna be used, how it's gonna impact people. They don't wanna bring in designers when a developer can, kind of hack something together and be like, "Here's your app."
Yeah.
Um but I don't think that should deter anyone from joining the field. I think, just still continuing to follow what makes you passionate. If you're creative, if you're interested in technology, if you get a bit of excitement when you're using an app and it, like, has a little fun animation at you and you're like, "Ah, I wanna do stuff like that." I would say just go for it because being passionate and excited about what you do is what makes this field really great, and that's what, employers and organizations are looking for when they wanna bring on someone like you. So, follow what makes you excited, follow what you're passionate about, and eventually you will land on your feet. It took me a year after graduating college to find my first job, um, and it was brutal at times, but it was when I, like, got off the computer, stopped applying to, like, 10, 20 jobs a day and just started getting out into the community and meeting other people, hearing their experiences, soaking up their advice, and eventually people will start to recognize you, and then they'll see a job or something and be like, "Hey, I think you would really enjoy this," and that's exactly what happened to me. So,
Yeah.
there's always space for people. I think it's important that the discipline doesn't die just because everyone's afraid that they can't make it in design. So just be